Lydia Moore and Henry Blake were more than business partners. They were a trusted team, a powerful duo in the world of investigative photojournalism. But behind the lens of their shared success was a deadly secret. When Lydia was found dead, in a locked hotel room, with no sign of struggle and no trace of her most valuable possession, all eyes turned to the one person who knew her best. What began as a routine investigation unraveled into a chilling tale of betrayal, global crime, and a truth someone would kill to keep hidden. Lydia Moore arrived at the Royal Pines Resort on a grey, rainy evening in September 2018. The sky was heavy, the air thick with the smell of wet pavement and pine trees. Nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the resort was known for its quiet charm, far from the bustle of city life. It was the kind of place where people went to disconnect. For Lydia, it may have seemed like the perfect place to disappear for a few days. She walked into the lobby alone, pulling 2 scuffed suitcases and carrying a green leather journal that she always kept close. Security cameras captured her entrance. She didn't speak to anyone other than the receptionist. She checked in under her real name and requested a room on a high floor, far from the elevators. Hotel staff who interacted with Lydia later described her as polite, but distant. She was cordial, never rude, but there was something in her eyes, something restless, distracted. She declined housekeeping and left the "Do Not Disturb" sign on her door throughout her stay. Room 726 was a corner suite, offering a panoramic view of the misty mountains. It was beautiful, peaceful, and completely isolated. Lydia had gained moderate fame in photography circles for her bold work in difficult locations. She had just returned from Southeast Asia, where she was reportedly working on a new project. She hadn't revealed many details about it to colleagues or even friends, but there had been rumors, whispers of her investigating illegal trade routes, smuggling operations, and people who didn't like being photographed. She didn't post much on social media after that trip, unusual for someone who normally shared daily updates from the field. At the resort, Lydia kept to herself. She ordered food only once from room service and didn't visit the spa, restaurant, or bar. No one saw her leave the building after her check-in. Her laptop remained open on the desk when staff would later find it, still logged into an encrypted folder. It was clear she was working on something, but what exactly remained a mystery. Her green travel journal was always with her, seen in every photo from previous trips, filled with notes, sketches, and codes only she could understand. That journal was nowhere to be found when investigators entered room 726. Its absence would become the first real clue that Lydia's death wasn't natural and certainly not accidental. There had been no warning signs, no panic, no strange behavior caught on camera. But Lydia hadn't come to the Royal Pines to relax. She had come to hide, or perhaps to plan her next move. What she didn't know was that someone had followed her. Someone who already knew she had seen too much. Someone who had no intention of letting her leave that hotel alive. 3 days after Lydia Moore checked into room 726, a call came to the front desk around 11:15 p.m. A guest staying in the room directly below had complained about a loud crashing noise, something heavy hitting the floor, followed by complete silence. The night manager on duty, unsure if it was an accident or something more serious, took the service elevator to the 7th floor. He knocked several times on Lydia's door. No answer. The "Do Not Disturb" sign was still hanging, slightly crooked. After a few more attempts, he used his master key to unlock the door. What he found inside would start a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. The room was dimly lit. The curtains were still open, framing a foggy mountain view. On the floor, near the foot of the bed, Lydia's body lay face down, one arm outstretched. Toward her journal bag, which had been dumped open beside her, lenses, memory cards, and a shattered camera lens were scattered across the carpet. The desk chair was overturned, a lamp lay broken near the nightstand, and the mirror above the dresser was cracked. At first glance, it looked like a struggle had taken place, but something didn't fit. There was no blood, no bruises, no cuts, no obvious cause of death. Lydia's body showed no external injuries. Her clothes were intact. Nothing in the room appeared to have been stolen. Her passport, wallet, and laptop were untouched. The scene looked chaotic, but also strangely controlled, as if someone had staged it to look like something had gone wrong without leaving behind any real evidence. First responders arrived within minutes. Paramedics confirmed that Lydia was dead, and detectives quickly cordoned off the area. Crime scene photographers captured every detail: the torn notebook pages near the trash bin, the fingerprint-free wine glass on the desk, the untouched bed. One of the detectives later said the room felt eerily clean for a scene that was supposed to show a fight. Surveillance footage showed no one entering or exiting Lydia's room after she had arrived. Her keycard had only been used once since check-in, the night she died. There was no forced entry, no pry marks on the lock. Security had no record of any suspicious guests on her floor. It was as if whatever happened had occurred behind locked doors, with no one else involved. But that theory quickly fell apart when the autopsy report came in. Toxicology results revealed that Lydia had been poisoned with a rare neurotoxin, one almost never seen outside of Southeast Asia. The substance was difficult to detect, nearly impossible to trace. It caused paralysis within minutes and death within hours. Whoever had given it to her knew what they were doing and wanted her to suffer quietly. Suddenly, what had looked like an isolated death turned into something much darker. Lydia Moore hadn't died by accident or natural causes. She had been silenced, and now investigators had to find out who had gotten to her and why. The discovery of a rare neurotoxin in Lydia Moore's system shifted the investigation sharply. Detectives now understood this wasn't a simple death in a hotel room. It was a planned killing. But who would go to such lengths to eliminate a travel photographer? And why use such an obscure and specific method? The answer, they believed, might lie in her recent travels. Lydia had returned from Thailand just 8 days before her death. Customs records showed nothing unusual. No contraband, no flagged luggage. But her encrypted laptop files revealed she'd been working on something secret, a photography project she hadn't shared with anyone publicly. Hidden within a locked folder was a series of images, grainy, low-light shots of animal cages, unmarked trucks, and shadowy figures in jungle markets. In several of the photos, Lydia had circled faces and tattoos in red ink, adding cryptic labels like "Same Man," "Third Location," and "Buyer," Bangkok. Her camera's memory card held even more. One image, seemingly taken in a busy Thai marketplace, showed a man in the background wearing a short-sleeved shirt. On his neck was a distinct black and red tattoo of a dragon curling around a skull, a symbol police later identified as connected to an international wildlife smuggling syndicate known as the Red Ember. This group had long operated in the shadows, evading authorities through bribes, threats, and violence. Lydia had apparently stumbled into their world and started documenting it. Investigators began reaching out to international law enforcement agencies. Interpol confirmed the dragon tattoo had been linked to known members of the syndicate. The man in Lydia's Photo was believed to be a mid-level enforcer involved in transporting illegal shipments from Thailand to Europe, but no one could explain how he might have reached North Carolina, or whether he even knew Lydia had returned to the US. Then came another clue. One of Lydia's recent credit card transactions showed a purchase of a burner phone at a convenience store near the Bangkok airport. That phone had been used to send encrypted messages to a contact listed only as H. The last message, sent 2 days before her death, read simply, "They know. I think H is feeding them info. If I don't, make it. Check the journal." The journal, her trusted green leather notebook, was still missing. Detectives scoured the hotel and surrounding areas. Nothing turned up. It was as if someone had taken it and vanished. Investigators suspected the killer had entered the room quietly, using knowledge only someone close to Lydia would have. Her routines, her hiding spots, her fears. As they looked deeper into her contacts, one name kept surfacing: Henry Blake, her longtime business partner and closest collaborator. Henry had helped Lydia plan nearly every assignment. He knew where she was going, what she was photographing, and how risky her missions were. On paper, Henry had a clean record. But in Lydia's files, there were hints she had started to doubt him. The pieces were coming together, but they still didn't form a complete picture. All investigators knew for certain was this: Lydia Moore hadn't just taken photos of a criminal network. She had become a threat to it, and someone had made sure she'd never release what she knew. Just as investigators were struggling to make further progress, a quiet breakthrough came from an unexpected source: a hotel employee from the room service team. The staff member had kept a tray that was never picked up from room 726 the night Lydia died. Inside the covered dish was untouched food, and next to it, a half-full glass of red wine. The tray had been placed to the side, nearly forgotten until the employee remembered the strange timing of the order. Lydia hadn't ordered anything in the first 2 days of her stay. Then, suddenly, late at night on the third day, she requested a single meal and a glass of wine. But when it arrived, she never touched the food. The forensic team tested the wine. The results confirmed what detectives feared. The wine was laced with the same rare neurotoxin that had killed Lydia. It was no accident. Someone had poisoned the wine and delivered it, knowing she would drink it. The killer had been careful, but not perfect. On the glass, there was a partial fingerprint. It didn't match Lydia, any hotel staff, or anyone in the national database. But when investigators ran it against known associates in Lydia's life, one match came back: Henry Blake. Henry had been Lydia's friend, business partner, and trusted collaborator for over 7 years. He helped fund her trips, manage her website, and coordinate with publishers. To the outside world, he was supportive and reliable. But according to the messages Lydia had left behind, she had begun to suspect he was hiding something. She had even mentioned him by initial H in the message from the burner phone, implying she believed he had betrayed her. When detectives questioned Henry, he denied everything. He claimed he hadn't spoken to Lydia in weeks and hadn't seen her since she left for Thailand. He insisted he had been at home the night of her death, working late and answering emails. But phone records told a different story. On the night Lydia died, Henry had called her 5 times. He never left a voicemail and made no mention of the calls to police. GPS data from his phone placed him less than 2 blocks from the Royal Pines resort around the time Lydia's room service was delivered. His alibi collapsed quickly under scrutiny. A search warrant was issued for Henry's apartment. In a locked cabinet beneath the floorboards, detectives found what they were looking for: Lydia's missing green travel journal. Inside were dozens, of pages of notes, photo locations, and diagrams outlining the smuggling operation she had been documenting. But the final pages were the most revealing. Lydia had written that she had uncovered proof that Henry was working with the traffickers. She had traced payments back to him, linking him to shell companies involved in shipping. She hadn't confronted him yet, but she planned to. Her last entry simply read, "If anything happens to me, it was Henry." Faced with the evidence, Henry eventually confessed. He had poisoned Lydia to stop her from exposing his role in the smuggling network. He thought it would look like natural causes, or maybe suicide. He hadn't expected her notes, her journal, or the hidden trail she left behind. His arrest sent shockwaves through the small community of photojournalists and human rights workers. One of their own had been silenced by someone they thought was on their side. Henry Blake's confession marked the end of one chapter but opened a darker one. As details emerged, the scale of his betrayal became clearer. For years, he had been presenting himself as a supporter of truth and justice, traveling alongside Lydia, funding her work, and sharing in her accomplishments. But behind the scenes, he had been selling information to the very networks she was trying to expose. Lydia's journal revealed that she had been documenting her suspicions for months, gathering evidence quietly, waiting for the right moment to act. That moment never came. During the trial, prosecutors laid out the entire timeline. Henry had used his access to Lydia's plans to tip off traffickers. In return, he received large wire transfers disguised as payments from media clients or art collectors. When Lydia returned from Thailand with evidence tying him directly to the Red Ember Syndicate, he knew she would turn it over to international authorities. He had one chance to stop her, and he took it. By slipping the neurotoxin into a bottle of red wine and delivering it personally under the guise of a room service worker, he ensured she would be unconscious within an hour. He left the room without a trace, never imagining the wine glass would be tested, or that his fingerprint would be left behind. The courtroom was silent when the final pages of Lydia's journal were read aloud. Her handwritten notes painted a picture of someone who knew her time might be short, but who refused to stop. She wrote about her fear, about the pressure she felt closing in, and about her determination to see it through anyway. Her last entries weren't filled with panic. They were methodical. She was preparing to share everything, to name names, to publish the truth. She never got the chance. Henry was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The court found him guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. International investigators used Lydia's work to open cases against other suspected members of the Red Ember network. Her images, her notes, and her bravery led to arrests across multiple countries. In the end, she exposed the very system that had taken her life. In the weeks following the trial, tributes poured in from around the world. Lydia was remembered not just as a photographer, but as a witness, someone who risked everything to shine a light in places others refused to go. Her final photo exhibition, posthumously titled Eyes of the Endangered, opened in New York and later travelled globally. The exhibition included prints recovered from her camera, maps based on her journal, and a single empty frame representing the work she never finished. Room 726 at the Royal Pines Resort has never reopened. The hotel quietly removed it from the booking system. Some say it's out of respect. Others believe it's a reminder of how a woman with a camera and a journal uncovered a secret so dangerous it cost her everything. But Lydia Moore's story didn't end in that room. Through her courage, it lives on, in every image, every arrest, and every person who now dares to look a little closer.